I'm standing in the entrance of Saint-Pierre Church wearing my navy Chanel dress, the same one Philippe chose for me 3 years before he died. My hand grips the leather handle of my purse so tightly my knuckles have gone white. Isabella is staring at me from across the vestibule with barely disguised contempt, her perfectly manicured hand resting possessively on the ornate baptismal font that's been in my family's church for 4 generations. 2 weeks ago, I received her message. Not a call, a message, as if even my voice was too much for her to bear. Don't come, Marianne. Your presence makes my parents uncomfortable. Just like that. 32 years of my life in this church, where I married Philippe, where we baptized Julian, where I held my husband's funeral, and now I'm being told my presence is uncomfortable at my own grandson's baptism. But that wasn't even the worst part. She added, with the casual cruelty only a 29-year-old who thinks youth equals power can muster, my mother will be the official godmother. She's invested so much emotionally in Theo. Invested emotionally. As if a grandmother's love could be measured in euros spent on luxury venues and designer baby clothes. I can see Carmela now, Isabella's mother, parading through the church like she owns it, wearing head-to-toe Versace and gold that's so bright it's practically offensive in a house of God. She's greeting guests with theatrical kisses on both cheeks, her voice echoing off the stone walls as she laughs too loudly at something someone said. Everything about her screams new money, desperate to be seen as old elegance. It would almost be sad if it wasn't so infuriating. Julian sees me, and his face goes pale. My son, my beautiful boy who looks so much like his father, it sometimes physically hurts to look at him, rushes over with relief and guilt warring on his face. "Mom, you came. I wasn't sure if you'd—" He trails off, realizing what he's admitting. That he knew. He knew Isabella had uninvited me, and he did nothing. "Of course I came, darling," I say quietly, touching his cheek the way I used to when he was small and had nightmares. "This is my grandson's baptism. Did you really think I would miss it?" His eyes fill with tears. "Isabella said you told her you couldn't make it. She said you were busy with the vineyard and that you understood." I feel something cold settle in my chest. So she didn't just uninvite me. She lied to my son about it. She made him believe I chose business over family. "Julian," I say carefully, "when have I ever chosen business over you?" He opens his mouth to respond, but Isabella appears at his elbow, her smile sharp as broken glass. "Marianne, what a surprise. I thought we discussed this." Her tone is light, conversational, but her eyes are warning me not to make a scene. "You discussed it, Isabella. I simply listened." I keep my voice level, dignified. Philippe always said my superpower was remaining graceful under pressure. This is my family's church, my son's child. I wouldn't dream of missing this day. Her jaw tightens. "Well, you're here now, I suppose. Just please try to stay in the background. My parents have planned every detail of this day, and I don't want any confusion about roles." She emphasizes the last word, making sure I understand my role is nothing. Carmela sweeps over before I can respond, a cloud of perfume arriving before she does. "Marianne, how lovely!" She air kisses near my cheeks, without actually touching me. "We weren't expecting you, but of course there's always room for family, even if it makes things a bit crowded." Her smile doesn't reach her eyes. She's wearing enough diamonds to fund a small country, and I wonder, not for the first time, if she's aware that true wealth whispers while insecurity shouts. The Delacroix family has been baptizing children in this church since 1898, Carmela, I say quietly. I hardly think my presence makes things crowded. Something flashes in her eyes. Anger, maybe, or embarrassment. She links her arm through Isabella's. "Yes, well, traditions change, don't they? This is Isabella's day to start new traditions. Isn't that right, my darling?" Isabella nods, her confidence bolstered by her mother's presence. "Exactly. And I've chosen my mother to be Theo's godmother. It's a new generation, Marianne. Time to let go of the old ways. I feel Julian stiffen beside me. Wait, what? Isabella, we never discussed this. I thought we were going to ask Sophie and Mark. Isabella waves her hand dismissively. Sophie and Mark can be secondary godparents. My mother deserves the honor of being primary godmother. She's done so much for us. She's done so much? Julian's voice rises slightly. Mom has been trying to see Theo for months, and you keep making excuses. She's his grandmother. And my mother is also his grandmother, Isabella shoots back. Why should your mother be more important than mine? The hurt in Julian's face makes me want to scream, but I've learned over 57 years that screaming rarely solves anything. Instead, I reach into my purse and touch the envelope I've been carrying for 2 weeks, ever since I found it in Philippe's desk drawer. The paper is slightly yellowed, my own handwriting on the front. To be opened when our first grandchild is born. It's fine, Julian, I say softly. Let's not make a scene. This is Theo's day. Relief floods Isabella's face. She actually thinks I'm surrendering. Thank you, Marianne. I knew you'd be reasonable. She turns to head back toward Carmela, but then adds over her shoulder, just try to stay in the back during the ceremony, please. We have a photographer and I want clean shots. Clean shots. As if I'm some kind of blemish to be cropped out of my own grandson's baptism photos. Julian looks at me with anguish. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't know she was planning this. I swear I didn't know. I believe him. My son isn't cruel. He's just weak. He's so desperate to keep the peace, so terrified of confrontation, that he's allowed his wife to slowly cut me out of his life. It started small. Missed Sunday dinners because Isabella was tired. Cancelled visits because the baby was fussy. Unanswered phone calls explained away as busy schedules. But this is the final cut. And it's deep. The church is filling up now. I recognize some of the guests, old friends of the family who look surprised to see me relegated to the back like a distant acquaintance. Father Francois, who has been the priest here for 30 years, who baptized Julien, who gave Philippe his last rites, catches my eye from the altar. He looks troubled, his bushy white eyebrows drawn together in concern. I make my way to his side, ignoring Isabella's pointed look. Father Francois, I say quietly, may I speak with you for a moment? He nods and leads me to the small side chapel, away from the growing crowd. Marianne, my dear, I've been troubled about this situation. Isabella submitted the godparent paperwork last week, and when I saw Carmela Santoro listed as primary godmother, I was confused. The Delacroix tradition has always been... I know, I interrupt gently. Father, I need to show you something. I open my purse and carefully remove the envelope. My hands are shaking slightly as I unseal it. Inside is a letter in Philippe's familiar handwriting, written just 2 months before his sudden death. I've read it so many times in the past 2 weeks that I've memorized every word, but seeing his handwriting still makes my chest tight with grief. Father Francois takes the letter and begins to read. I watch his expression shift from curiosity to surprise, to something that looks like righteous anger. When he finishes, he looks at me with tears in his eyes. He knew, he whispers. Philippe knew how important this would be. The letter is simple but powerful. In it, Philippe writes about his deepest wish for our future grandchildren, about the importance of maintaining the family's spiritual traditions, about his absolute certainty that I should be the godmother of our first grandchild, just as his mother had been his godmother, and her mother before her. It's not just a wish. It's a documented family tradition going back 4 generations, and attached to the letter are certificates, baptismal records, and photographs proving the unbroken chain. There's more, I say quietly, reaching into my purse again. This time, I pull out a small velvet box. When I open it, Father Francois gasps. Inside is the Delacroix Godmother Rosary, an intricate piece of antique gold and seed pearls that has been passed down since 1891. It's worn smooth by the hands of my husband's great-grandmother, his grandmother, his mother, and was placed in my hands when I became Julien's godmother 32 years ago. The tradition, Father Francois says slowly, understanding dawning, is that the rosary is worn by the official godmother during the baptism. Yes, I confirm. It's not just sentiment, Father. It's sacred tradition. And according to church law, when there's a documented family tradition of this significance, it should be honored unless there's a compelling reason not to. He straightens his shoulders, and I see the priest rather than the gentle old man I've known for decades. Isabella never mentioned any of this. She simply assumed she could designate whomever she wished. She doesn't know about the tradition, I admit. Philippe and I were going to tell Julien about it when the time came, but then Philippe died so suddenly. I found this letter only 2 weeks ago, when I was going through some of his personal papers. Father Francois carefully folds the letter and hands it back to me. Marianne, I cannot in good conscience proceed with this baptism having Carmela Santoro as primary godmother when there is clear documentation of family tradition and the biological grandmother is present and willing. It would be a violation of the sacred nature of this sacrament. My heart is pounding. What are you saying? I'm saying, he says firmly, that when the time comes during the ceremony for me to ask who will stand as godmother, you will step forward, and I will recognize the tradition. I feel dizzy with relief and anxiety. Isabella will be furious. Carmela will make a scene. Let them be furious, Father Francois says with surprising steel in his voice. This is God's house and this family's church. Some things are more important than keeping peace with people who have no respect for sacred traditions. We return to the main church, and I take a seat in one of the middle pews, not in the back, as Isabella demanded, but not in the front either. I'm done being invisible, but I'm not here to wage war. I'm here to claim what's rightfully mine, what Felipe wanted, what tradition demands. The ceremony begins, and Theo is brought forward in a beautiful white linen christening gown that I recognize with a jolt. It's the same gown Julien wore at his baptism. I had it carefully preserved and gave it to Julien years ago for his future children. So Isabella did use something of ours, even if she's trying to erase me from everything else. My grandson is perfect. 6 months old with Philippe's blue eyes and my mother's nose. When he was born, I held him for exactly 15 minutes before Isabella decided she was too tired for visitors. I've seen him maybe a dozen times since then, always supervised, always brief, always with Isabella watching me like I might steal him away. Father Francois begins the liturgy, his voice strong and clear in the ancient church. I clutch my purse in my lap, feeling the weight of the envelope and the rosary box inside. My heart is beating so hard, I'm sure the people around me can hear it. Isabella is standing at the front with Carmela, both of them looking triumphant. Julien stands apart from them, holding Theo, and I can see the tension in his shoulders. He knows something is wrong. After 32 years, I can read my son like a book. The ceremony progresses through the prayers and blessings. The church is packed with people, most of whom I don't recognize. Isabella's friends and Carmela's social circle, I assume. People who care more about being seen at an expensive baptism than about the actual sacrament taking place. And then Father Francois reaches the moment where he asks who will stand as godparents for this child. Isabella immediately steps forward, pulling Carmela with her. Father, this is Carmela Santoro, the godmother we've chosen. Father Francois looks at her with patient firmness. Mrs. Delacroix, have you submitted the required documentation for Mrs. Santoro's eligibility as godmother? Has she been approved by the church for this sacred role? Isabella's smile falters. Approved? I chose her. That's how it works, isn't it? In families with documented spiritual traditions, Father Francois says carefully, the church requires verification that the chosen godparent honors those traditions, or that there is compelling reason to break from them. Has there been such a compelling reason presented? The church has gone completely silent. You could hear a pin drop on the stone floor. Isabella looks confused and angry. This is ridiculous. I'm the mother. I choose who I want. You choose, Father Francois agrees, but the church must validate that choice, particularly when family tradition is involved. Is there another candidate present who represents the family's spiritual tradition? This is it. This is the moment. I stand up slowly, my legs shaking, but my resolve firm. Every eye in the church turns to me. I walk down the aisle with my head high, my hand in my purse, touching the envelope like a talisman. When I reach the front, I stand before Father Francois and extend the envelope to him. Father, I believe this is relevant to the proceedings. Isabella's face goes white, then red. What is she doing? Marianne, sit down. This is my son's baptism. He's my grandson, I say quietly, firmly. And this is my family's church. Father Francois opens the envelope with deliberate care and removes Philippe's letter. The rustle of paper seems thunderously loud in the silent church. He begins to read aloud, his voice carrying to every corner of the sacred space. My dearest wish, should I not be present for the baptism of our first grandchild, is that Marianne, the love of my life and the guardian of the Delacroix traditions, serve as godmother. For 4 generations, the women of our family have carried this sacred responsibility, maintaining an unbroken chain of faith and family. Let this tradition continue with the woman who has been my partner in all things, who raised our son with grace and wisdom, and who will guide our grandchildren with the same love and faith that has sustained our family for over a century. The silence after he finishes is deafening. I can hear Isabella's sharp intake of breath, Carmela's outraged gasp, and somewhere in the congregation, someone whispers, "Oh my God." Julian is staring at me with his mouth open, tears streaming down his face. He didn't know. He had no idea about any of this, about the letter, about the tradition, about what his father wanted. And now, as Father Francois carefully returns the letter to me, and I reach into my purse one more time, pulling out the velvet box containing the rosary that has graced the necks of 4 generations of Delacroix godmothers, I see understanding dawn on my son's face. I see him remember his own baptism, remember the photographs of me wearing this same rosary as I held him over the font. I see him realize what his wife has tried to take from me, from him, from our family. The gold catches the light from the candles and the stained glass windows. The seed pearls seem to glow with their own inner light. And as I lift the rosary from its box and hold it up for everyone to see, I finally speak, my voice steady and clear. This rosary has been worn by every godmother in the Delacroix family since 1891. Philippe's great-grandmother wore it. His grandmother wore it. His mother wore it. I wore it when I became Julian's godmother. And if Father Francois and God will allow it, I will wear it today as I become Theo's godmother, as my husband wished, as tradition demands, as love requires. 3 years ago, I lost Philippe on a Tuesday morning in October. He was drinking his coffee on the terrace overlooking the vineyard, reading the newspaper like he did every morning for 32 years of marriage. I was inside making breakfast when I heard the cup shatter on the stone tiles. By the time I reached him, he was already gone. Massive heart attack. The doctors said he didn't suffer, that it was instantaneous, as if that made it better, as if knowing he didn't feel pain could somehow ease the agony of finding my husband's body still warm, but no longer alive. Julian flew home from Paris immediately. He held me while I cried, making all the arrangements I couldn't face, calling relatives and friends, handling the funeral details with an efficiency that broke my heart because it meant he was falling apart inside just like me. At the funeral, I held his hand while he sobbed, this grown man of 29 reduced to the little boy who used to crawl into our bed during thunderstorms. I made him a promise that day, standing over Philippe's grave in the family plot behind the church. I promised that I would keep our family together, that I would be there for him always, that the bond between us would never break. Philippe would have wanted that. Family was everything to him. 6 months after the funeral, Julien called to say he'd met someone. Her name was Isabella. She worked in public relations for luxury brands, and she was beautiful and exciting and made him feel alive again after months of grief. I was happy for him. Genuinely happy. My son deserved love and joy after watching his father die so suddenly. He brought her to meet me on a Sunday in April. I remember preparing for days, wanting everything to be perfect. I had the chef prepare a special lunch, selected wines from our best vintage, even bought fresh flowers for every room. I wanted Isabella to feel welcomed, to see that she was marrying into a family that would embrace her. She arrived wearing head-to-toe designer labels and sky-high heels completely inappropriate for a vineyard tour. Carmela and Vittorio came with her, uninvited, and I could tell immediately that this was Carmela's doing. She wanted to inspect the property, evaluate what her daughter was marrying into. I tried not to judge. Different families have different customs. The lunch was awkward. Carmela dominated every conversation, talking loudly about their construction business, their properties in Milan, their connections in high society. She made a point of mentioning how much they'd spent on Isabella's education, her wardrobe, her lifestyle. Everything was about money, about showing off, about proving they belonged in elite circles. At one point, Carmela picked up one of my wine glasses, expensive crystal that had been Felipe's grandmother's, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "It's so quaint, isn't it? Using old family things instead of buying new. I suppose when you have old money, you don't feel the need to prove anything." Her smile was sweet, but her eyes were calculating. She was testing me, trying to make me feel inferior in my own home. I smiled back just as sweetly. "We believe in honoring what those before us built, Carmela. These glasses have toasted 4 generations of Delacroix celebrations. They have history, which is something money can't buy." The temperature at the table dropped about 10 degrees. Vittorio cleared his throat uncomfortably. Isabella stared at her plate. And Julien, my poor Julien, looked like he wanted to disappear. After that day, I tried harder. I invited Isabella for coffee, offered to take her shopping, suggested spa days and wine tastings, and all the things I thought might help us bond. She always had an excuse. Too busy with work, not feeling well, already had plans with her mother. I told myself to be patient, that she was young and probably intimidated by me. Felipe had always said I could be unintentionally imposing. I didn't mean to be. I just knew who I was and what I'd built, and after 5 decades of life, I wasn't going to apologize for it. The wedding happened quickly. Too quickly. Isabella was 2 months pregnant, though they tried to hide it by having a winter wedding where she could wear a dress with a fuller skirt. I only found out about the pregnancy when Carmela got drunk at the reception and started crying about her baby having a baby. She made it sound like some kind of tragedy instead of a blessing. I tried to be supportive. I really did. I offered to help with the nursery, suggested baby names, bought every pregnancy book I could find. Isabella accepted my gifts with cold politeness, but never invited me to any of the doctor appointments. Carmela went to all of them. Carmela was there for every ultrasound, every milestone, every moment that should have been shared with both grandmothers. When Theo was born 6 months ago, I was notified 4 hours after the birth. 4 hours. Carmela had been in the delivery room. Vittorio had been in the waiting area. But Julien didn't call me until Isabella decided she was ready for visitors. By the time I arrived at the hospital, exhausted from the 2-hour drive and sick with worry, Isabella was already holding court with her friends, showing off the baby like a trophy. I held my grandson for exactly 15 minutes before Isabella said she was tired and needed to rest. A nurse took Theo to the nursery and I was ushered out. Carmela stayed. She was allowed to stay because, as Isabella explained, my mother knows how to help without being overwhelming. The visits after that were carefully controlled. I could come on Wednesdays between 2 and 4. I couldn't hold Theo for more than a few minutes because it made him fussy. I couldn't bring gifts without checking with Isabella first because she didn't want duplicate items. I couldn't offer advice because Isabella had her own parenting philosophy that didn't align with outdated methods. Every rule felt like a small cut. Individually, they seemed reasonable. Together, they were designed to push me to the margins of my grandson's life. 2 months ago, I invited Julian and Isabella to Sunday dinner at the Vineyard. It had been a monthly tradition before Philippe died, something we did religiously. Good food, good wine, family time. Julian said they'd love to come, but the morning of the dinner, Isabella texted to cancel. The baby was teething. They couldn't make it. Maybe next month. Next month it was a cold. The month after, work obligations, then travel plans, then Carmela was visiting and they had commitments. There was always something. I started to realize that Isabella had no intention of ever bringing my grandson to the Vineyard. She was systematically erasing me from their lives, one canceled plan at a time. I tried talking to Julian about it during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. "Darling, I feel like I'm losing you. I barely see Theo. I miss having you both in my life." He sighed, that exhausted sigh of a man caught between two women he loves. "Mom, Isabella is just protective. New mothers are like that. Give her time. She'll relax." But she wasn't relaxing. She was tightening her grip. And then came the notification about the baptism. Not an invitation, a notification. A text message sent to a family group chat that included what felt like 100 people I didn't know. Theo's baptism will be held at Saint-Pierre Church on November 3rd, followed by reception at Salon Impérial. Details to follow. November 3rd, the anniversary of Philippe's death. I stared at that date for a full minute, trying to convince myself it was coincidence. But I knew better. Isabella had access to our family calendar. She knew what that date meant. She chose it deliberately, knowing I would be emotionally vulnerable, knowing it would hurt. I called Julian immediately. "The baptism is on your father's death anniversary?" There was a long pause. "Is it? I didn't realize. Isabella handles the calendar. I'm sure she didn't know, Mom." But she did know. I was certain of it. This was intentional cruelty, carefully calculated to cause maximum pain while maintaining plausible deniability. The phone call from Isabella came a week later. Her voice was falsely cheerful. "Marianne, I wanted to talk to you about the baptism. It's going to be quite a large event, very formal, and I know you prefer quiet family gatherings. I thought perhaps it would be more comfortable for you to sit this one out. My parents aren't really comfortable with large family dynamics, and I don't want anyone to feel awkward." I felt something cold settle into my bones. "You're uninviting me from my grandson's baptism?" "Not uninviting," she said quickly. "Just suggesting that maybe this isn't the right event for you. My mother is going to be the godmother, and having too many grandmother figures might confuse Theo as he grows up. We want to keep things simple." Simple. As if a child couldn't have two grandmothers. As if my presence was somehow complicated rather than essential. "Isabella," I said carefully, "I would very much like to be at my grandson's baptism." "Well," her voice went cold, "that's not really up to you, is it? Julian and I will discuss it and let you know." She hung up before I could respond. She never called back. Julian never called back. The message was clear. I wasn't wanted. I wasn't needed. I should disappear quietly and let Carmela take my place in Theo's life. That's when I went into Philippe's office and started going through his papers. I'd been avoiding it for 3 years, unable to face the physical evidence of his absence. But that night, angry and hurt and desperate, I tore through every drawer, every file, every box. I was looking for something, anything, that could help me understand how to fight for my place in my family. That's when I found the envelope. To be opened when our first grandchild is born. My handwriting, but I'd completely forgotten about it. Philippe had asked me to write it years ago, back when Julien was first married to his college girlfriend. That relationship ended, but the envelope remained, forgotten in a drawer of estate documents. Inside was Philippe's letter, his final wish, his absolute certainty that I should be Theo's godmother, and attached to it all the documentation proving 4 generations of unbroken tradition. I cried for 2 hours holding that letter. Then I dried my eyes, made an appointment with Father Francois, and began to plan. If Isabella wanted war, she had chosen the wrong battlefield. This was my church, my family's tradition, my husband's final wish, and I was done being erased. The silence in the church after I hold up the rosary lasts maybe 5 seconds, but it feels like an eternity. Then all hell breaks loose. "This is insane," Isabella's voice echoes off the stone walls, shrill and panicked. "You can't just show up with some old letter and hijack my son's baptism. This is my decision." Carmela rushes forward, her face twisted with rage. "This is manipulation. She's using a dead man to get what she wants. Father, you cannot allow this." But Father Francois stands firm, his elderly frame somehow commanding absolute authority. "Mrs. Santoro, please lower your voice. This is a house of God, not a marketplace." He turns to the congregation, many of whom are whispering frantically to each other. "The Delacroix family has baptized their children in this church since 1898. There is documented tradition, approved by previous bishops, that the godmother role passes through the maternal line of the family. This tradition has never been broken. Until now," Isabella says desperately. "I'm breaking it now. I have the right as Theo's mother." Father Francois looks at her with something close to pity. "You have many rights as a mother, my dear, but the Church also has obligations to honor sacred family traditions when they are properly documented and don't contradict Church law. Mrs. Delacroix has provided substantial evidence of such a tradition." I can see Isabella's mind working frantically, trying to find some angle, some argument that will win this battle. She turns to Julian, who is still standing there holding Theo, looking shell-shocked. "Tell her! Tell your mother she can't do this! This is our son!" Julian looks between us, his face pale. "Isabella, I didn't know about the letter. I didn't know Dad wanted this." His voice cracks. "Why didn't you tell me you uninvited my mother?" "I didn't uninvite her," Isabella snaps. "I suggested it would be more comfortable for everyone if she stayed home. There's a difference." "No," Julian says quietly. "There really isn't." He looks at me, and I see 3 years of suppressed grief and confusion finally breaking through. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have asked more questions." "You were trying to keep peace," I say gently. "I understand, darling. But some peace isn't worth keeping." Carmela grabs Isabella's arm. "We're leaving. This is a farce. We'll have Theo baptized somewhere else, somewhere that respects the mother's wishes." "That would be inappropriate," Father Francois says firmly. "The baptismal arrangements have been made. The child is here. The congregation is assembled. To leave now would be to deny the child his entry into the church over adult pride." "Is that what you want, Mrs. Santoro? To punish your grandson because you didn't get your way?" The words hit like a slap. Carmela's mouth opens and closes like a fish. Isabella starts to cry, big dramatic tears that smear her perfect makeup. "This was supposed to be my day," she sobs. "Everything was perfect. The flowers, the venue, the photographer, and she's ruining everything." I feel a flash of anger so intense it surprises me. "This isn't about flowers or photographers, Isabella. This is about a sacred sacrament and family tradition. Your day? This is Theo's day. His entry into the church, into his heritage, into a tradition that goes back longer than either of us has been alive." "Heritage," Isabella spits the word like it's poison. "You mean your heritage, your family, your traditions. What about my family? What about what we want?" "What you want," I say quietly, "is to erase me, to pretend I don't exist, to replace me with your mother in every way that matters. But I am Theo's grandmother. I am Philippe's widow. I am part of this family, whether you like it or not. You make me feel small," Isabella suddenly screams, and the raw honesty in her voice shocks everyone into silence. Every time I'm around you, I feel inadequate. You, with your perfect vineyard and your old money elegance and your dead husband who everyone talks about like he was a saint. I can never measure up to you. Julian will always compare me to you, and I'm tired of living in your shadow. The confession hangs in the air. I see Julian's face crumple with understanding. This wasn't just about the baptism. This was about years of insecurity, of feeling less than, of competing with a ghost and a woman who never meant to be competition. Isabella, I say carefully, I have never wanted you to measure up to me. I wanted you to be yourself, to be happy, to love my son and let me love my grandson. That's all I've ever wanted. But you're so perfect, she whispers. Everyone loves you. Everyone respects you. How am I supposed to compete with that? You're not supposed to compete, I tell her. We're supposed to be family. Carmela, who has been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly speaks up. Don't listen to her, Isabella. She's trying to manipulate you. This is what people like her do. They act all dignified and reasonable while making you feel crazy for having emotions. I turn to look at Carmela properly for the first time. Really look at her. The overprocessed hair, the too tight face from too many procedures, the desperate designer labels, the jewelry that screams rather than whispers. And I see it clearly. This woman has spent her entire life trying to buy her way into acceptance, into rooms that would never fully welcome her. And she's passed that desperation, that hunger for validation, down to her daughter. Carmela, I say quietly, what did I ever do to you? Truly, what did I do to make you hate me? She laughs bitterly. You exist. That's enough. Women like you, born into the right families, married to the right men, living in your chateaus with your wines and your traditions. You don't even have to try. Everything just falls into your lap, while women like me have to fight for every scrap of respect. I wasn't born into this, I say. I inherited a failing vineyard at 35 when my parents died in a car accident. Philippe and I rebuilt it from nothing. We worked 18-hour days for years. We almost lost everything twice. Nothing fell into my lap, Carmela. I earned every single thing I have. But you had the name, she insists. The family history, the connections. That's worth more than money. Perhaps, I acknowledge, but you're punishing me for something I can't control. And worse, you're teaching Isabella to see me as an enemy instead of an ally. Isabella is still crying, quieter now. Julian has moved to her side, still holding Theo, trying to comfort her while clearly struggling with his own emotions. The congregation watches like this is the most dramatic theater production they've ever seen. And Father Francois waits patiently, letting this all play out because he understands that sometimes wounds need to be opened before they can heal. I just wanted my mother to matter, Isabella says through her tears. She's done so much for me. She's sacrificed so much. And nobody ever acknowledges it. Everybody just sees Marianne, perfect Marianne, with her perfect life and her perfect dead husband. My life isn't perfect, I say firmly. My husband died at 62. I found his body. I had to bury the love of my life and figure out how to keep breathing. I've been lonely for 3 years, desperately wanting to be part of my son's new family, and instead, I've been pushed further and further away. Do you know what that feels like? To lose your husband and then slowly lose your son too? Julian makes a choked sound. Mom, you didn't lose me. Didn't I? I look at him steadily. When was the last time we had dinner together? When was the last time you called just to talk? When was the last time you brought your son to visit the vineyard where you grew up? He can't answer because we both know the truth. Since he married Isabella, I've lost him piece by piece, sacrifice by sacrifice, all in the name of keeping peace with a woman who was determined to see me as the enemy. This stops now, Father Francois says suddenly, his voice cutting through the emotional chaos. All of you listen to me. This child deserves better than this. Theo deserves to be baptized in love and unity, not in the middle of a family war. Then tell Marianne to back down, Carmela says immediately. No, Father Francois says flatly. Marianne has documentation proving family tradition. She has her deceased husband's explicit wishes. She has the godmother rosary that has been used in this church for over a century. And most importantly, she has the right as a grandmother to participate in her grandson's spiritual life. Isabella, you cannot simply decide to exclude her because it's convenient or because your mother feels competitive. So, Carmela gets nothing? Isabella's voice is small now, defeated. She doesn't get to be part of this? I didn't say that, Father Francois replies. The church allows for secondary godparents. Carmela can certainly serve in that role, but the primary godmother, according to tradition and family documentation, should be Marianne. I see the moment Isabella realizes she's lost. Her shoulders slump and fresh tears stream down her face. Carmela looks like she wants to set the entire church on fire. Julian just looks exhausted and sad. Can we have a moment? Julian asks quietly. Just our immediate family? Please? Father Francois nods and gestures to a small side chapel. Julian, Isabella, and I move there, while Carmela protests loudly that she should be included. You are not immediate family to Theo, Father Francois tells her firmly. Give them space. In the quiet of the side chapel, away from the dozens of watching eyes, the three of us stand in heavy silence. Theo has miraculously slept through most of the drama, his tiny face peaceful against Julian's shoulder. I don't know how to fix this, Julian finally says. I love you both. I need you both in my life, but I can't keep doing this. I can't keep being torn in half. Isabella wipes her eyes, smearing mascara across her cheeks. She makes me feel so inadequate, Julian. Every time I'm around her, I feel like I'm not enough. Not elegant enough, not cultured enough, not French enough. I never meant to make you feel that way, I say honestly. Isabella, I tried so hard to welcome you. But you put up walls before I even had a chance. Because my mother warned me, she admits quietly. From the moment I met you, she told me you would try to control everything, that old money families always look down on new money, that I needed to establish dominance early or I'd never have any power in this marriage. I feel suddenly, desperately sad. So this was all preemptive? You pushed me away before I could push you? She nods miserably. I thought I was protecting myself, protecting my marriage, but I just made everything worse, didn't I? Yes, Julian says bluntly. You did. Mom has been trying for 2 years to have a relationship with you, with us, with Theo, and you've shut her out at every turn. Do you know she sends gifts for Theo that you never tell me about? Do you know she calls and you don't pass the messages along? I found out by accident last month that she's been trying to visit, and you keep canceling. Isabella's face flushes with guilt. I didn't think you'd understand. You didn't give me a chance to understand, he says. You made decisions about my mother, about my family, without including me. That's not protecting our marriage, Isabella. That's controlling it. I was scared, she whispers. Scared of losing you to your mother. Scared of always being second place to the perfect Delacroix family legacy. I step closer to her, and for the first time, I truly see her. Not as an antagonist or an obstacle, but as a terrified young woman who married into a family she didn't understand and armed herself with cruelty because she thought it was armor. Isabella, you're Theo's mother. That's a position no one can take from you. Not me, not anyone. But grandmother is also a position no one can take from me. We don't have to compete. There's room for both of us in that child's life. But the godmother thing, she says weakly. My mother will never forgive me if she's not the primary godmother. Then that's between you and your mother, I say firmly. You need to decide right now whether you're going to spend your life managing your mother's ego or building your own family. Because you can't do both, Isabella. Carmela will always demand more, always feel slighted, always need you to prove your loyalty by excluding me. Is that the example you want to set for Theo? She looks at the baby sleeping in Julian's arms, and something shifts in her expression. No, she says quietly. No, it's not. Then let's end this, Julian says. Right now, Mom is Theo's godmother. Carmela can be a secondary godmother. We all participate in his baptism together, and after today, we start over, fresh, boundaries for everyone, including you, Mom. I nod. I can accept that. I don't want to interfere in your marriage or your parenting. I just want to be part of Theo's life, part of your life. Isabella takes a shaky breath. What if I'm terrible at sharing? What if I keep messing this up? Then we'll figure it out together, I tell her. That's what family does. We mess up and we forgive and we try again. But we have to actually try, Isabella. All of us. She looks at me for a long moment, and I see something like hope flicker in her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispers, for the letter, for uninviting you, for choosing that date. I knew it was your husband's death anniversary. I wanted to hurt you. The admission is like a knife, but also strangely healing. At least now we're dealing with truth instead of pretense. Why did you want to hurt me? Because I was hurting, she says simply. Because I felt invisible and inadequate, and I wanted someone else to feel the way I felt. That's horrible, isn't it? It's human, I say. Not admirable, but human. The question is, what do we do now? We go back out there, Julian says decisively. We baptize our son. Mom wears the rosary and stands as primary godmother. Carmela stands as secondary godmother. And then we go to the reception and we act like a family, even if we're all faking it a little, because Theo deserves better than this war. Isabella nods slowly. Okay. But Marianne, you have to promise me something. What? Promise you won't try to take over. Promise you'll respect that I'm his mother, even when you think I'm doing things wrong. Promise you'll let me figure out how to be a parent without judging me. It's a fair request, even if it stings a little. I promise to try, but you have to promise to actually let me in, to return my calls, to bring Theo to visit, to include me in his life. I promise to try, she echoes, and we smile at each other weakly, two women who have fought a bitter battle and are both too exhausted to keep fighting. We return to the main church, where the congregation is buzzing with barely suppressed gossip. Carmela rushes to Isabella immediately. Well, did you fix this? Are we leaving? No, Mama, Isabella says, and I hear steel in her voice I've never heard before. We're staying. Marianne will be the primary godmother. You'll be the secondary godmother. And we're all going to get through this ceremony with grace and dignity. Carmela's face goes purple. You're letting her win? After everything I've done for you? This isn't about winning, Isabella says firmly. This is about what's right for Theo, and fighting with his grandmother in the middle of his baptism is not what's right. I can't believe you're choosing her over me, Carmela hisses. I'm not choosing anyone over anyone, Isabella says, and I'm surprised by how calm she sounds. I'm choosing my son. There's a difference. Carmela looks like she might explode, but Vittorio, who has been silent through all of this, puts a hand on her shoulder. Enough, Carmela. Let it go. The girl is right. And somehow, that's what ends it. Not the priest's authority or the documentation or the tears. Just a husband quietly telling his wife that it's time to stop fighting. Carmela deflates like a balloon, her rage giving way to wounded pride and bitter acceptance. Father Francois clears his throat. Shall we proceed with the sacrament? The baptism itself is beautiful, despite everything. Father Francois's voice is steady and sure as he performs the ancient ritual, blessing the water, anointing Theo's forehead with holy oil. I stand beside the baptismal font wearing the rosary, its weight around my neck both physical and symbolic. 4 generations of Delacroix women have worn this same piece during this same sacrament. I can almost feel them with me, Felipe's great-grandmother, who I only knew from photographs. His grandmother, who taught me how to prune grapevines. His mother, who held my hand during Julian's difficult birth and told me I was strong enough to survive anything. And Philippe. God, I feel Philippe everywhere in this moment. In the stone walls he loved, in the stained glass windows he used to point out to Julian as a child, in the very air of this sacred space where we promised to love each other forever. When Father Francois places Theo in my arms and I hold him over the baptismal font, I swear I feel my husband's hand on my shoulder, warm and solid and real. Theo Philippe Delacroix, Father Francois intones. I baptize you in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. He pours the blessed water 3 times over my grandson's head. Theo startles and lets out a small cry, then settles back into peaceful sleep as if he understands the significance of what just happened. I look down at this tiny, perfect human, this continuation of the man I loved, this bridge between past and future. His eyes flutter open for just a moment, and they're so blue, so exactly Philippe's blue, that tears spill down my cheeks before I can stop them. Welcome to the family, little one, I whisper. Your grandfather would have loved you so much. When I hand Theo to Carmela for her part in the ceremony, she takes him stiffly, awkwardly. She clearly doesn't want to be the secondary anything, but she's going through the motions because Isabella and Vittorio are watching. Father Francois says the prayers for secondary godparents, and Carmela's responses are mechanical, devoid of the emotion that should accompany such a sacred moment. I find myself feeling sorry for her. This woman who has everything money can buy, but seems to have nothing that actually matters. She's so consumed with status and appearance that she's missing the real blessing right in front of her. Her grandson's baptism has become just another social event to her. Another opportunity to be seen and photographed and validated. She's holding Theo, but she's not really seeing him. The ceremony concludes, and the congregation applauds politely. People file forward to congratulate us, and I notice how many of them make a point of speaking to me, of acknowledging the tradition, of commenting on the rosary. Several elderly women who knew Felipe's mother touch the gold reverently, sharing memories of previous baptisms they attended. One woman, who must be in her 80s, tells me she was at Julian's baptism 32 years ago and remembers how beautiful I looked wearing that same rosary. Isabella stands beside Julian, accepting congratulations with a fixed smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. I can see her watching the interactions, seeing how people gravitate toward me, how the older generation especially treats me with a respect and warmth that she's not receiving. I know what she's thinking, that she was right, that I do overshadow her, that she can never compete with the weight of history and tradition. But then, something unexpected happens. Father Francois calls everyone's attention and makes a short speech. Today, we witnessed something rare and beautiful, he says. Not just the baptism of a child, but the restoration of family unity. Marianne Delacroix honored tradition, while Isabella Delacroix honored truth. Both showed courage in putting aside pride for the sake of this child. Let us remember that family is not about winning or losing. It's about love, sacrifice, and the grace to admit when we've lost our way. It's a gentle rebuke wrapped in blessing, and I see several people nodding in agreement. More importantly, I see Isabella's face soften slightly, as if she's finally understanding that this doesn't have to be a competition, that there might actually be room for both of us. The reception at Salon Imperial is as lavish as Isabella promised. The venue is stunning, all crystal chandeliers and silk draping and flower arrangements that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Isabella has spared no expense, and I have to admit, she has excellent taste. It's modern and elegant without being ostentatious. Well, not too ostentatious anyway. But as we enter the reception hall, I notice something that makes my stomach drop: the seating chart. I find my name card, and it's at table 12, in the back corner, with distant cousins I barely know. Carmela and Vittorio are at table 1 with Isabella and Julian. The message is clear. Despite everything that happened at the church, Isabella is still trying to relegate me to the margins. Julian sees it at the same moment I do. His face goes pale and then red with anger. He strides over to the seating chart and physically rips it off its easel. "No," he says loudly enough that several people turn to look. "Absolutely not." Isabella hurries over. "Julian, what are you doing? That took the planner hours to arrange." "My mother is not sitting in the back at table 12 like some distant acquaintance," he says firmly. "She's Theo's godmother. She sits with family at table 1. "But there's no room," Isabella protests weakly. "The tables only seat 8 and we already have." "Then we make room," Julian interrupts. "We add chairs. We get a bigger table. I don't care. But my mother sits with us or we don't stay." I can see Isabella calculating whether he means it. She must decide he does because she signals frantically to the event coordinator. Within minutes, chairs are being added to table 1, place settings rearranged, name cards shuffled. Carmela looks apoplectic as she realizes she's about to spend the entire reception sitting directly across from me, but Vittorio just shrugs as if to say, "What did you expect?" As we take our seats, Julian places me between him and Theo's carrier. It's a deliberate choice, a statement. I'm not at the margins anymore. I'm exactly where I belong, right beside my son and my grandson. The meal begins, and conversation at our table is stilted at first. No one quite knows what to say after the drama of the church ceremony. But then Theo wakes up and starts fussing, and I reach into my purse and pull out the small stuffed rabbit I brought, the same one Julian had as a baby. I make it dance and hop across the table, and Theo's face lights up with delight. "Is that Monsieur Lapin?" Julien asks with wonder in his voice. "I thought that was lost years ago." "I saved it," I tell him. "I saved all your important things. I always knew that someday there would be another baby in the family to love them." Isabella watches this interaction with something unreadable in her expression. Then she says quietly, "He loves it. Thank you, Marianne." It's the first time she's thanked me for anything in 2 years. And somehow, those simple words, spoken without sarcasm or resentment, feel like a genuine turning point. Not a resolution, not forgiveness, not even full peace. But a crack in the wall. A small opening where something better might eventually grow. Carmela sniffs dismissively. "It's old and worn. Surely you could afford to buy the child something new, Marianne. Some things are more valuable because they're old and worn," I say gently. "They carry memory and love. They connect generations. That's worth more than anything new money can buy." The barb lands exactly as intended. Carmela's face flushes and she opens her mouth to retort, but Vittorio puts his hand over hers and shakes his head slightly. "Don't," his gesture says. "Just don't." And for once, blessedly, she doesn't. The reception is in full swing when Carmela excuses herself to powder her nose. She's been seething quietly for the past hour, picking at her food, drinking wine faster than she should, throwing pointed looks at anyone who dares compliment me or the rosary or the ceremony. I watch her weave through the tables, her gait slightly unsteady, and I have a terrible feeling that this day isn't over yet. I'm right. 20 minutes later, as dessert is being served, Carmela returns to the table with 2 of her friends flanking her like bodyguards. Her face is flushed, her eyes too bright. She's definitely had too much to drink. She stands behind her chair instead of sitting, and I know immediately that something bad is about to happen. "I'd like to make a toast," she announces loudly, tapping her wine glass with a spoon. The conversations around us fade as people turn to look. Isabella's face goes pale. Vittorio tries to pull Carmela back into her seat, but she shakes him off. "A toast," she repeats, "to my daughter Isabella, who worked so hard to make today perfect, who spent months planning every detail of this beautiful celebration, who wanted nothing more than to honor her son and her family on this special day. It sounds nice enough, but there's an edge to her voice that makes my skin prickle with warning. Julian has gone very still beside me, his jaw tight. Isabella chose me to be Theo's godmother, Carmela continues, her voice getting louder and slightly slurred. Me, her mother, who was there for every moment of her pregnancy, who held her hand through 18 hours of labor, who has sacrificed everything to give her the best life possible. She chose me because she knows who really loves her, who really supports her. Mama, please sit down, Isabella says quietly, desperately. But Carmela is just getting started. And yet, somehow, that wasn't good enough. Somehow, old traditions and dead husbands and dusty rosaries are more important than a living mother's love. Somehow, Marianne Delacroix, who has barely seen this baby in 6 months, who Isabella had to practically beg to leave them alone, gets to be the official godmother while I'm relegated to secondary status. The room has gone completely silent. Every single person is staring at our table. I can feel my face burning, but I keep my expression neutral, refusing to give Carmela the satisfaction of seeing me react. That's enough, Julian says firmly, standing up. Carmela, you're drunk. Sit down. Drunk? She laughs bitterly. I'm honest. There's a difference. Everyone's been tiptoeing around the truth all day, pretending this was some beautiful reconciliation. But let's be real. Marianne manipulated everyone. She used her dead husband's letter to guilt-trip a priest and steal what rightfully belonged to me. It didn't belong to you, I say quietly, finally speaking. It never did. It's a family tradition that goes back 4 generations. You can't steal something that was already yours by birthright. Birthright, Carmela spits the word. That's all people like you care about, isn't it? Who came first? Who has the oldest name? Who has the most history? Well, history doesn't change diapers. History doesn't wake up at 3 a.m. with a screaming baby. History doesn't love that child the way I do. No one is saying you don't love Theo, I reply, trying to keep my voice calm. But love doesn't give you the right to erase his other grandmother. There's room for both of us in his life. Is there? Carmela's laugh is harsh. Because from where I'm standing, there's only room for you. Perfect Marianne with her chateau and her wines and her tragic widow story. Everyone feels so sorry for you, so sympathetic. Poor Marianne, who lost her husband. Well, you know what? My husband is alive, and I still feel invisible next to you. The confession rings through the hall, raw and painful. I suddenly understand something I should have understood years ago. This was never really about Theo or godmother status or family traditions. This was about a woman who has spent her entire life feeling invisible, trying desperately to matter, to be seen, to be chosen first, just once. Carmela, I say gently, I'm sorry you feel invisible, truly, but making me the villain won't make you feel seen. Won't it? Her smile is ugly, because right now, everyone is looking at me. Finally, people are paying attention instead of fawning over you and your precious family legacy. Isabella has tears streaming down her face. Mama, please stop. You're ruining everything. I'm ruining everything. Carmela turns on her daughter with sudden fury. I'm not the one who let that woman steal your moment. I'm not the one who gave in, who backed down, who let tradition trump your wishes as a mother. You're weak, Isabella, just like your father always said. Too weak to stand up for yourself. The cruelty of it takes everyone's breath away. Vittorio stands abruptly, his face dark with anger. That is enough, Carmela. We're leaving, now. No, Carmela shouts. I'm not finished. Everyone needs to hear the truth. Marianne Delacroix is a manipulator. She uses her dead husband like a weapon. She makes everyone around her feel inadequate so she can swoop in and be the hero. She's been poisoning Isabella against me for 2 years. That's not true, Isabella says, her voice breaking. Marianne didn't poison me against you. You did that yourself. With your constant criticism, your impossible expectations, your need to control every aspect of my life. The words seem to physically strike Carmela. She staggers back a step, her face going white beneath her makeup. How dare you? After everything I've done for you, after everything I've sacrificed. I never asked you to sacrifice. Isabella is standing now too, her voice rising. I never asked you to give up your life for me. You chose that, Mama, and then you made me feel guilty for it every single day. Nothing I do is ever good enough for you. I'm never pretty enough, successful enough, perfect enough. And now you're doing the same thing at my son's baptism, making it about you and your hurt feelings instead of about Theo. I was protecting you, Carmela insists. From her, from people like her who think they're better than us. She never thought she was better than us, Isabella shouts. You thought we were less than her. You've been so busy fighting a class war that only existed in your head that you turned me into a soldier in a battle I never wanted to fight. The raw honesty of it seems to suck all the air from the room. Carmela looks around at the dozens of faces watching this family implosion, and something in her seems to break. You're choosing her, she whispers. My own daughter is choosing Marianne Delacroix over me. I'm not choosing anyone, Isabella says, exhausted. I'm trying to build a family where everyone can coexist. But you won't let me. You need there to be sides, need there to be winners and losers, and I can't do that anymore, Mama. I can't. Carmela's face crumples. For a moment, she looks small and lost and incredibly sad. Then the moment passes and her expression hardens into something cold and brittle. Fine. If that's how you feel, then I'm done. I'm done trying to help you, done trying to guide you, done sacrificing for someone who clearly doesn't appreciate it. Carmela, don't do this, Vittorio says quietly. You're going to regret this tomorrow. The only thing I regret, she says bitterly, is wasting so much time and energy on people who never valued me. She looks at Isabella one last time. When you realize what you've lost, don't come crying to me. I won't be there. She turns and stalks toward the exit, her two friends scrambling to follow her. The room remains frozen in shocked silence until the doors slam shut behind her. Then everyone starts talking at once, a rush of whispers and gasps and barely concealed excitement at the drama they just witnessed. Isabella collapses back into her chair, sobbing. Julian immediately wraps his arms around her, murmuring comfort. Vittorio sits heavily, looking 10 years older than he did an hour ago. I'm sorry, he says to no one in particular. I'm so sorry. She's been getting worse lately. The drinking, the outbursts. I've tried to get her to see someone, but she refuses. It's not your fault, I tell him quietly. You can't control another person's choices. He looks at me with tired eyes. She's not wrong about everything, you know. She does feel invisible. She always has. I gave her money and status, but I never knew how to give her the one thing she really wanted. What's that? I ask. To feel like she was enough exactly as she was. He rubs his face wearily. She came from nothing, you know. Real poverty. Her father was a drunk who beat her mother. She grew up in a 2-room apartment with 7 siblings. She clawed her way out of that through sheer determination and incredible beauty. But she never stopped feeling like that poor girl from Naples who everyone looked down on. I feel an unexpected wave of sympathy. I can't condone Carmela's behavior, but I'm beginning to understand it. She spent her whole life fighting to prove her worth, and somewhere along the way, she forgot that she didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Isabella has stopped crying enough to speak. I need to apologize to everyone, she says, her voice thick. This is so embarrassing. On Theo's baptism day, of all days. You have nothing to apologize for, I tell her firmly. Your mother's behavior is not your responsibility. But it is, isn't it? She looks at me with red, swollen eyes. I enabled her. I let her treat you terribly because part of me wanted her approval more than I wanted to do what was right. I'm so sorry, Marianne, for everything. For the past 2 years, for uninviting you, for choosing that date, for all of it. The apology is real and raw and completely sincere. I reach across the table and take her hand. I forgive you. Truly. We all make mistakes when we're trying to navigate complicated family dynamics. What matters is that we're here now, trying to do better. I don't know how to fix things with my mother, she admits. I don't even know if I should try. Give it time, Vittorio advises. Let her calm down, sober up, process what happened. Then maybe we can all sit down and have an honest conversation. One where she actually listens instead of just reacting. Julian is still holding Isabella, and I see the love and concern in his face. Whatever tensions existed between them, this crisis has reminded him why he married her. She's not her mother. She's capable of growth, of admitting fault, of choosing differently. The party slowly resumes around us, though everyone is clearly still buzzing about what just happened. Some guests come by to quietly express support or sympathy. A few older women give me knowing looks, as if to say they've dealt with difficult family members too and understand completely. As the evening winds down, Isabella feeds Theo while I watch. It's the first time she's allowed me to observe her mothering without hovering protectively or making excuses to take the baby away. She's actually a very good mother, I realize. Patient and gentle and attentive. I tell her so. She looks up, surprised. Really? I always feel like I'm doing everything wrong, like I'm failing him somehow. All new mothers feel that way, I assure her. I certainly did. I remember calling Philippe's mother in tears at 2 a.m. because Julianne wouldn't stop crying, and I was convinced I was the worst mother in the world. She told me that the fact I was worried about being a good mother proved I was one. Isabella smiles weakly. I wish I'd had someone like that. My mother just criticizes everything I do, says I'm too soft, too indulgent, that I'm going to spoil him. There's no such thing as spoiling a baby with love, I tell her, and for what it's worth, you're welcome to call me at 2 a.m. if you need to. Or any time, really. Her eyes fill with fresh tears. I'd like that. I'd really like that. We sit in companionable silence for a moment, watching Theo eat. Then Isabella says quietly, I was so scared of you. I know, I reply. I should have recognized that earlier. Should have done more to make you feel comfortable. No, she shakes her head. It wasn't your job to manage my insecurities. That was on me. And on my mother, who fed those fears instead of helping me work through them. She pauses. I want to do better. For Theo. I don't want him growing up in the middle of family drama. Then we'll do better together, I promise. All of us. It won't be perfect, and we'll probably mess up sometimes, but we'll keep trying. Julian is listening to this exchange with relief written all over his face. So what now? He asks. Where do we go from here? Home, I say simply. We go home, we rest, and tomorrow we start fresh. New boundaries, new understanding, new beginning. 3 months have passed since Theo's baptism, and I'm sitting on the terrace of Château de la Croix, watching my grandson take his first uncertain steps across the lawn. Isabella is hovering anxiously behind him, hands outstretched to catch him if he falls, while Julian records everything on his phone with the proud intensity of every new father. It's Sunday afternoon, and Sunday afternoons have become our tradition. Every week, without fail, Julian and Isabella bring Theo to the vineyard. Sometimes they stay for lunch, sometimes for the whole day. Sometimes it's just the 4 of us, peaceful and quiet. Other times, they bring friends or Isabella's father, Vittorio, who has become an unexpected ally in this new family dynamic. Carmela hasn't spoken to any of us since the baptism. According to Vittorio, she's told everyone who will listen that her daughter betrayed her, that Julian poisoned Isabella against her, that I manipulated the whole situation to steal her grandchild. She's playing the victim in the social circles of Milan, and apparently some people believe her version of events. Most don't. Isabella sees a therapist now, twice a week. She's working through years of maternal manipulation, learning to set boundaries, understanding how her mother's insecurity became her own. It's not easy work. Some days she cries and wants to call Carmela and apologize for everything. Other days, she's angry at herself for not seeing the pattern sooner. But she's doing the work, and I'm proud of her for that. Did you see that, Marianne? Isabella calls out excitedly as Theo takes 3 wobbly steps before sitting down hard on his diaper-padded bottom. 3 steps! That's a new record! I applaud, and Theo claps his hands in imitation, delighted with himself. He's such a happy baby, full of smiles and curiosity. He looks like Julian did at this age, which means he looks like Philippe, which means sometimes my heart squeezes so tight I can barely breathe. But it's a good pain now. A sweet ache of connection rather than the sharp grief of loss. Come have some wine, I call to them. You've earned it after chasing him around all afternoon. They settle into chairs on either side of me, and I pour glasses of our new vintage. Julian swirls his glass professionally, sniffs, tastes, and pronounces it excellent. Isabella just drinks hers gratefully, still learning to appreciate the nuances, but enjoying it nonetheless. I got an email from my mother this morning, Isabella says suddenly, staring into her wine. First communication in 3 months. Julian tenses. What did it say? She wants to meet, just the 2 of us. Says she's ready to talk, that she's been doing some thinking. Isabella looks at me uncertainly. My therapist thinks it might be healthy, but I don't know. What if she just ambushes me with more guilt and manipulation? Then you leave, I say simply. You're allowed to walk away from conversations that aren't healthy, even with your mother, especially with your mother. But what if she's really changed? What if she's genuinely trying? I consider this carefully. Then that would be wonderful. Theo deserves to know both his grandmothers if possible. But Isabella, change takes time and consistent effort. 1 email after 3 months of silence doesn't prove anything. If you decide to meet her, go with clear boundaries. Decide in advance what behavior you'll accept and what will make you leave, and maybe meet in a public place where you feel safe. She nods slowly. That makes sense. Julian, what do you think? I think you need to do what feels right for you, he says diplomatically. I'll support whatever you decide. But I agree with Mom about boundaries. Your mother has to earn back your trust. She doesn't get it automatically just because she gave birth to you. Isabella reaches over and squeezes my hand. Thank you for not making this harder. You'd have every right to tell me never to speak to her again after what she did. She's your mother, I say gently. And despite everything, I understand that bond. I can't imagine how painful it must be to have this distance between you. If there's a way to repair the relationship that doesn't require you to sacrifice your own well-being, I hope you find it. We sit in comfortable silence for a while, watching Theo explore the grass with intense concentration. He picks up a leaf, examines it, tries to eat it. Isabella rushes over to stop him, and I smile. Some things never change. I remember doing the exact same thing when Julian was that age, constantly preventing him from putting dangerous or disgusting things in his mouth. I've been thinking, Julian says carefully, about the future, about what happens to the chateau eventually. I look at him curiously. What do you mean? I mean, this place is your whole life. You've poured everything into it. But someday, probably years from now, it'll pass to me. And I want to make sure we handle that transition in a way that honors what you and Dad built. My throat tightens with emotion. We haven't talked about succession planning much since Philippe died. It felt too raw, too final. That's a conversation for another day, darling. I'm not going anywhere yet. I know, he says. But I want you to know that when the time comes, Isabella and I have talked about it. We want to preserve the traditions, the Sunday family dinners, the harvest celebrations, the connection to the community. We don't want to turn this into just another business property. Isabella nods, and I promise, no more trying to erase Delacroix history. I get it now. This legacy matters. It connects Theo to his grandfather, to generations of family he'll never meet. That's precious. I have to blink back tears. 3 months ago, I thought I was losing my family. Now I'm sitting here with my son and daughter-in-law, planning a future that includes all of us, honors all of us. There's something I want to give you, I say, standing up. Wait here. I go inside to Philippe's office, which I've finally started cleaning out properly. From the bottom drawer of his desk, I pull out a leather-bound journal. It's Philippe's writing, started when Julian was born and continued sporadically over the years. Observations about fatherhood, hopes for his son's future, wisdom he wanted to pass down. When I return to the terrace and hand it to Julian, he looks at it with confusion. What is this? Your father's thoughts, about you, about life, about what mattered to him. He wanted you to have it someday. My voice cracks slightly. I wasn't ready to give it to you before, but now feels right. Julian opens the journal with trembling hands and reads the first entry. His face crumples and he starts to cry, really cry, in a way I haven't seen since the funeral. Isabella wraps her arms around him and I join them, the three of us holding each other while Theo plays obliviously in the grass. He was so proud of you, I whisper to Julian, every single day. Even when you made mistakes or disappointed him, he was proud of the man you were becoming. And he would be so incredibly proud of the father you are now. We stay like that for a long time, crying and healing and letting go of some of the grief we've all been carrying. When we finally separate, Isabella's makeup is ruined and Julian's eyes are red and swollen. But there's something lighter about all of us, as if we finally exhaled after holding our breath for 3 years. The sun is setting now, painting the vineyard in gold and amber. Theo has tired himself out and fallen asleep in his portable crib under the shade of an olive tree. The 4 of us sit together watching the day end, and I think about how far we've come, from exclusion and manipulation to honesty and connection. From competing grandmothers to a family that's learning to make room for everyone's love. From grief that isolated us to grief that's finally bringing us together. I miss him, Julian says quietly, looking out over the land his father loved. Every day, I miss him. Me too, I say, but I see him in you, in Theo. In this place we're all protecting together. He's not really gone as long as we remember what mattered to him. Family, Isabella says softly. Family mattered most to him, and we're finally getting that right. She's right. We are. It's messy and imperfect, and we still stumble sometimes. Isabella still has moments of insecurity where she needs reassurance that I'm not judging her parenting. I still have to bite my tongue when I want to offer advice she hasn't asked for. Julian still plays mediator more than he should, trying to keep everyone happy. But we're trying. We're showing up. We're choosing each other over pride and hurt feelings and old resentments. The rosary sits in its velvet box in my bedroom now, waiting for the next Delacroix baptism. Maybe it'll be Theo's sibling someday. Maybe it'll be his child, decades from now. But whenever it's needed next, it'll be ready. A symbol of continuity, of tradition, of love that transcends generations. As darkness falls and we finally pack up to head inside for dinner, I take one last look at the vineyard. The vines Philippe and I planted together, the soil we cultivated, the legacy we built. It's not just mine anymore. It's ours. Mine and Julian's and Isabella's and Theo's. A family inheritance that means something because we fought for it, bled for it, refused to let it be destroyed by pride or fear. Theo wakes up as we're carrying him inside and gives me a sleepy smile. I smile back, touching his soft cheek, and I swear I feel Philippe smiling too. Wherever he is, he's at peace now. His family is together. His traditions are being honored. His grandson will grow up knowing where he came from and who loved him first. That baptism 3 months ago changed everything. Not because I won some battle, but because we all finally stopped fighting and started listening, started seeing each other as humans instead of obstacles, started building something better than what we almost destroyed. And as I watch my son and daughter-in-law work together to get Theo ready for dinner, laughing at some private joke, comfortable with each other in a way they never were before, I know Felipe's letter did exactly what he hoped it would. It reminded us all what really matters. Not pride, not status, not winning, just love. Just family. Just showing up for each other again and again, no matter how hard it gets. That's the real tradition worth preserving.